Hello and welcome to the Crusader Corner podcast. I'm your host, Mr. O'Donnell, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, Mr. Frank Arvizzigno. He's the superintendent of the Diocese of Rochester. So, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So, a couple questions we'll go through today. The first one that I want to ask for just our audience to get to know you a little bit better is how did you get into Catholic education? What's the why behind it?
Absolutely. So I went to Catholic school as a child. My parents made the sacrifice, as many of our parents do, to send their children to Catholic school. And when I got into education and started teaching, I actually started as a public school teacher in New York City. And I always felt that there was something missing from the classroom. I mean, you know, it was a great place to work, but there was always that spiritual piece that the public school system did not have. So when I went back to school to get my master's in educational administration, I really started to look at Catholic schools. I wanted to come back to that environment that I really enjoyed as a child and felt, as I said when I was teaching, that I missed that Catholic identity, that spiritual piece. So I started applying to schools in New York, and I ended up getting a job. My first leadership position was as a principal of a Catholic elementary school in Monroe County.
Okay.
And I was a principal there for 9 years. And then the superintendent position opened up in the Diocese of Rochester. And I met with the bishop, and the rest is history. I really wanted to continue to find ways to be a part of the Catholic education across not only the Monroe County schools, but across all of our schools in the diocese. And I really felt as a superintendent I could do that. I could reach out to multiple schools, work with multiple principals and kids all across our 14 Catholic schools. So that's how I got into this position. This is my third year now as the superintendent.
Okay, awesome. So you initially began in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you're from originally?
I'm originally from New Jersey. My family, when they came over from Italy, they grew up in New York City. That's where they came over from when they came over from Italy. And then I grew up in New Jersey, and then ended up moving back to New York City to teach. So I did teach in the public school system in New York, and as I said, you know, it was completely different from the Catholic school system. So now I find myself back in the Catholic school system, and I really enjoy where I am now.
Yeah. What brought you to upstate? So was there just like a job posting that you saw, or did you have a
connection? So my wife and I didn't want to raise a family in New York City, so we started to look at places outside of New York. And again, I started applying to positions, and one of the positions that was available was in Rochester. It was on the west side in Greece, in Monroe County. And I really enjoy the Rochester area. You know, it's amazing because you have that city atmosphere, but you also have, you know, the ability to have a house with a yard, and then, you know, and also there's plenty of farmland and beautiful lakes around. So I really love this area. And when I applied for the position, and I found out that they wanted to move forward with having me as the leader of the Catholic school, I felt that it was the right move, and we made the move up here.
So a lot of people are familiar with the position of, you know, a superintendent for, say, a school district, and they might vaguely know like what that job entails.
Mm-hmm.
But your job as a diocesan superintendent has a much larger geographic spread.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're also, because of that reason, like you're not in charge of the individual schools busing situations, or like kind of the other stuff that you think of as superintendent.
Yeah.
So what does a diocesan superintendent do?
So I do a lot. So as I said, we have 14 schools under our Catholic schools office. A lot of it is supporting the building leadership. I provide, my office provides a lot of professional development for the principals and the teachers. We also work with lawmakers. I meet with the other superintendents, and we go down to Albany on a regular basis and work with lawmakers to ensure that our schools are getting funding, that certain funding is available to our Catholic schools, that is available to public schools, and we want to make sure that our students are able to be provided with that funding. There's also a lot of support in regard to enrollment, helping to monitor enrollment at our schools, working with finance directors and principals, marketing. Our school board, which I meet with on a regular basis, has various committees, such as a marketing committee, a Catholic identity committee, an academic committee. So we make sure that we're helping schools in regard to those areas. In regard to academics, we help the schools monitor the progress of students through our iReady program. So we regularly assess students in math and ELA, and again, provide professional development and support in those areas. For Catholic identity, we provide support if principals are in need of some help with how to enhance Catholic identity in their school buildings. Our team will work with them. We also provide support in regard to safety at schools. We monitor school safety plans and do regular audits, and make sure that the schools are following various guidelines that the state has in regard to safety. So there's a lot. I mean, a lot of it is, as I said, supporting the principals and guiding schools in regard to curriculum and Catholic identity, and marketing, and of course, with curriculum, all types of programming that's connected to that. Right now we have an ELA program across all of our schools and a math program across all of our schools. We're trying to have more consistency in regard to our programs. So our Catholic Schools Office helps with that as well.
Yeah. So would the goal be, say one family had their kid enrolled in second grade and they moved to another place in the diocese and enrolled them, then the kid would have a smooth transition.
Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we all follow the same standards. And what we're trying to do now is make sure those programs that are used to teach those standards are consistent across all schools. So as you said, if someone leaves second grade in November and wants to, at one school, and wants to go to a second grade at another school, they're going to just be able to pick up from where they left off.
Cool. For the, you mentioned going down to Albany and the legal work that you're involved in.
Sure.
So a few years ago, a court ruled that private schools have to give what's called substantially equivalent education.
Yes.
As a public school does. And it was then a result of, a couple lawsuits that the state had to pay out. So the term that is thrown around is, private schools have to establish that they are substantially equivalent.
Right.
And could you just explain what does that mean? What's the impact that has on the Catholic schools?
Sure. So the state is trying to get every school to show that they are meeting the standards. And for our Catholic schools, we've always met the standards. We exceed the standards. When we look at how our students perform on standardized tests in comparison to the public school districts, our students often perform above and beyond. So we've never had a concern about that. But the state now is asking every school to prove that they are meeting the standards, are substantially equivalent. And there are different pathways that schools can use to show they're substantially equivalent. One of the pathways is an accreditation process, which is what our diocese is doing. So we're working with the Middle States Association, and all of our schools received accreditation. It's a self-study where each school would review test data, review various procedures and protocols, and the Middle States Association would determine if the school receives this accreditation. And we had the accreditation for a number of years, and we just renewed it last year, and it's good for another 7 years. So we meet the requirements based on what the Middle States Association feels we need to meet in order to be accredited, but also we meet those requirements for the state to be substantially equivalent.
Okay, cool. So it sounds like everything was in place
Yeah.
prior to the ruling, so it didn't really.
And it's always been, like I said, our teachers and our families never have concerns about that, have never had concerns about that. But now the state just wanted something in writing, you know, something,
One more thing to document.
Yeah.
So another topic that was, I'm surprised this topic didn't make a ton of news. It started to a little bit this past July, but there's a federal voucher program coming for schools. It's in the works, but it may not even be ready to roll out next year. So could you explain how that system works? Will New Yorkers have a chance of seeing that benefit? Because I know there's a lot of there's some state discretion as to whether or not they want to take that.
So it's a federal tax credit. However, each state has to opt in. So New York has not opted in at this point. And if New York opts in, what would happen is families can donate a portion from their taxes toward a scholarship granting organization that would provide assistance to our Catholic schools. If a family decides that they want to donate to that scholarship granting organization, they would get a tax credit. However, as I said, New York hasn't opted in yet, and we don't know all the specifics. We don't know how this would be, how it would be done. How they would choose which scholarship granting organization they would want to work with. But if New York opts in, it would be a way for our Catholic schools to receive more funding to provide more support for students through that scholarship granting organization.
Yeah. So like if I gave $1,000 to a scholarship granting organization, I get $1,000 back.
Credit on your taxes.
On my tax, my tax return. And depending on your tax situation, it could be, you're basically choosing, give the money to the Catholic schools.
Right. Or give it to the federal government. Give it to the federal government. Right.
Easy choice. Right. And so New York hasn't opted in. Now, are there any, like, say New York doesn't opt in, are there ways that, like, SGOs, scholarship granting organizations outside New York State could still give money to schools?
So they wouldn't be able to give money to schools in New York, but there are still ways that you could give money to scholarship granting organizations in other states. Although I'm not sure, again, I don't know the specifics. I don't know if this is something that can still be done through the taxes, if through your tax return, if New York doesn't opt in. So if Pennsylvania opts in, there will be scholarship granting organizations that provide support for Catholic schools in Pennsylvania, but I'm not sure how that would work with New York if someone in New York still wanted to give to those organizations. But this would be a game changer for some of our schools if you could get a number of families to provide this funding. Some of our schools get support through the Bison organization, through Cabrini funds, through a scholarship granting organization that provides tuition assistance for families. If the pot was able to be increased through these donations, you could provide more assistance to more families. So this could be a game changer for some of our schools where families really struggle to attend. They can't afford the tuition, and our schools just don't have that extra funding to give them that financial aid.
Yeah. No, we see the need here in Auburn. A lot of families applying for financial aid. And so, any resources we can give, because there's families who do want to come here or just go to, say, any Catholic school, but then they assume, I can't afford it, so I'm not going to bother looking into it.
Right.
Which is a shame, because we do have donors who give money to scholarship funds, but I think the tax incentive and just like the awareness that would happen from scholarship granting organizations would lead to quite an increase of enrollment. Can you play the devil's advocate? Can you look at any way, like, what are the drawbacks? What is a rational reason for New York State not wanting to opt into this program?
I mean, I don't see any reason why New York wouldn't want to, because you're helping students. I mean, why would you not want to opt into a program that would help students? But I guess I could see where maybe some public schools might feel that that could pull students away from them, away from their schools. If more families are given the ability to attend our Catholic schools because now they have the financial means to, I guess you could argue that some groups might feel that that's pulling families out of the public school system. But it's not like we're still not going to be paying taxes for the public school system. I mean, everyone's paying those public school taxes. So I don't see how it's really going to affect funding for the public schools in any way.
It's also like when you put in terms like we might lose some kids. What you're saying is if we empower parents to make educational choices about their children, they're going to make the choices we don't like.
Right. Oh, right.
It's kind of a dark way of putting it. But I mean,
if parents want to send their child to a Catholic school, they should be given the ability to do that. I mean, I think
that's the teaching of the Catholic Church, right? That parents have the right to
absolutely
to determine their kids' education, but also like Christians have a right to a Christian education, that recognizes their proper end, who they are as human beings made in God's image and likeness.
Right. Absolutely, I agree.
I guess we'll just have two more questions to round it out. So what's the most important factor for a school to have a strong Catholic identity? Like when you're visiting a school, what is it that you're able to pick up on as like, things are going here in the right direction?
Sure.
Catholic identity aspect.
I believe it's about connecting Catholic teachings to everything. I mean, when you walk into a school, that's doing that, you feel that the Catholicity is not just that morning prayer or that prayer before a meal. It's infused throughout the school day. It's everywhere. You step into a classroom and there's a prayer center. There's a crucifix. When a teacher's teaching math, there's a connection to religion when they're teaching that math lesson. So it's not just being done in a silo where, okay, now it's religion time, we're going to talk about religion and then we're going to move on. Or now it's time for lunch, let's say our prayer and now we're just going to move on to lunch. But everything that's done throughout the school day is somehow connected to Catholic teachings. That I think is where it becomes the most powerful. And I think you can connect the teachings of Jesus to any subject. Subject. It doesn't have to just be in religion class, but it's not only when we're teaching, it's also, how we handle discipline situations in the building. Is it done through, through a Catholic lens, through the teachings of Jesus? Are we connecting how we address situations in the classroom to how Jesus would want us to treat others and to live and to move forward? I think that's the most powerful. I mean, the schools that are constantly, connecting what's happening in church to what's happening in the classroom. The students are attending Mass on a regular basis. Families, when they attend Mass on the weekends, are connecting what's happening during those weekend Masses to when they come into the school day during the week and are volunteering. And there's a community that's always connected by faith. And I think that's a big part of it.
I think that is one of the strongest aspects of Catholic schools with a strong Catholic identity is there is a community there.
Sure.
That just can't be duplicated by non-Catholic schools. Like when people would come through Tyburn through the years, the universal impression is this is like the strongest community that I've ever seen and been a part of.
That's great.
From teachers to families. So. Anything exciting in the works at the Diocese of Rochester Education
There's always
Office?
something exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, right now we're really trying to help our teachers grow in connection to their faith. So we're working with the Franciscan Catechetical Institute to provide catechism training sessions for our teachers. Now they're online, they're not in person, but we wanted to make it more accessible for teachers so that they could attend these sessions, either late at night after a school day or early in the morning or maybe during a planning period. But we're requiring all of our teachers to participate in a certain number of these, and we give them options to do more if they want to move forward with other sessions. to learn more about Catholic teachings, to grow more in their faith. I mean, we find that many of our teachers that are coming in, even though they're Catholic, may not be as knowledgeable about the Catholic faith as some of the teachers that have, that started working in Catholic schools 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we're providing them with that ability, and we're giving them hundreds of these sessions that they can attend and learn more about Catholic teachings. We're also working on our response to intervention across our schools. So our schools do receive special education services from the public school district, but we also have students that may not qualify for special education services that we want to support more, especially in regard to math and ELA.
Mm-hmm.
So we are working, our principals are working on enhancing our response to intervention process, which is the process that we use to provide that extra support, maybe working in small groups with students, or individually having academic intervention services programs in our schools, and having a more common, consistent process and approach and materials and resources across all our schools in connection to that. So, awesome. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Well, I know you're a busy guy, so I appreciate you coming out here to visit us today and send down for this episode.
Thank you. So, thank you very much. It was great to be here. God bless. I look forward to coming back and visiting again soon.
All right.
Take care.